For the third year and counting, Richard Skipper has been celebrating the artists you love. Richard Skipper is all about celebrating life, art, and his guest body of work. Please join us while he showcases these diverse and talented individuals. Here's Richard Skipper.
Happy Friday, everyone, and welcome to Richard Skipper Celebrates. Who or what are you celebrating? I'm drinking out of my happy birthday mug. My birthday is nowhere near. It will be in February, but I believe that every day should be celebrated, and we should take the time to celebrate each other and everything. And so it's appropriate that I'm drinking out of my happy birthday mug today. COVID is on its way out the door completely. But my dear friend Victoria, I don't know if she's here or watching, she stopped by today because it's National Dessert Day, and she brought me these two incredible Parisian desserts for Danny and me for after dinner tonight. So that's exciting. So it's also National Be Bald and Proud Day. I'm not bald. Not that I would have any problem being bald. I've often thought about playing The King and The King and I, or Ramses and the Ten Commandments. Who knows? I mean, there are all kinds of possibilities. I celebrate all bald men. I celebrate bald women. I celebrate everybody. But today, let's see who is here in the wings watching. We have Alan Choi is here from San Francisco, one of my favorite cities, and that's always worth celebrating. Cherry Callahan is from my hometown of Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Actually, I grew up in Conway, which is right next to Myrtle Beach. Let's see, Gary Basin is here. Happy National Dessert Day, everybody. Natasha Lombardi is here from Portland, Maine, or is it Portland, New Hampshire? We'll find out. And Rosa Puzo is here from Connecticut. Rose, I'm so glad that you're here. So let's see. I'm going to pick Cherry Callahan. And Cherry, you get to bring on our first guest. So you give me a number 1 through 4, and I will bring on the first guest, and we will discuss and find out what their favorite Maine. So Natasha's in Maine. I love both Portlands. They're both beautiful. So as soon as Cherry tells us what our first number is, I will bring on the first guest, and she's picked number 3, and that's Charles Evans, also from San Francisco.
Yeah,
who just
I know Alan. Hello, Alan.
Yes, and you both.
Yeah.
So he's watching. So Charles, first of all, who or what are you celebrating today?
Well, I am celebrating that we just finished a very successful run of Kinky Boots in San Francisco, and it was a really joyous occasion for all of us on the stage and the audience just loved it every night. We had standing ovations every night and just cheering crowds and people just feeling so joyous. It's a very joyous, loving show. And so just celebrating that. And I'm on my way to the East Coast in a week or so to visit some family and to go to some cabaret events in New York. And I'm doing the cabaret conference there and going to some master classes. And I'm going to go to the Mabel Mercer cabaret convention, hopefully as well. And I'm just looking forward to doing all that. So it's a good.
Well, New York cannot wait to have you back.
Yes.
So, as you know, you've been on the show before. This is a return visit for you. So I'm so glad that you said yes to coming back. And it's nice to hear the aftermath of a show. And I'm thrilled that it was a success. I've been following your post on Facebook. So I know how much fun this has been for you and how it feels to be back on the stage. So today is National Dessert Day. Do you have a favorite dessert? And if so, are you a baker?
I am not a baker. No, not.
Neither am I.
Not even on the stage. My favorite dessert is cherry pie. And when I was a kid, it was only sort of at President's Day or Washington's birthday that cherry pie was really readily available, it seemed, in those days. So I would look forward to those holidays because it was the time where I could get my favorite dessert. But now, of course, you can get cherry pie many, many places, but it's my favorite. And strawberry shortcake, and I like chocolate, but I'm not like a super chocoholic type person. So a cherry pie is something I would always go for. So my favorite.
That's great.
Yeah.
So before we bring on our next guest, you get to pick a random question, and you get to pick 1 through 4.
Okay, I will pick 3.
And the question, it's called Great Questions. We're going to find out if it's a great question. It says, to tackle hard questions, say, thank you. This is a great question. The person asking will feel recognized and will be less critical of your answer. I'm not going to ask you any tough questions today. So what is the toughest question that you feel that you've ever been asked that that stumped you?
The toughest question. I guess maybe sometimes when I was looking for work, and I was going for jobs that I was more needing income rather than being passionate, and somebody would ask me, why do you want this job or this position? and I would have to come up with something that was plausible, even though it was like, well, I want to be able to finance my other job of doing theater and singing, and and coming up with things that really were things that I valued about what I would be doing. Even sometimes it had to do with thinking about who my work would benefit, who my customer was, and who my work would benefit, and thinking about that, because I really do care about customer service and customer satisfaction and making people happy. So I think sometimes, if the task seemed mundane, it was hard to answer why did I want that particular job. So I had to think about who the job would benefit and why I cared about those people and and their well-being, that kind of thing.
Well, it's interesting. I read an article recently that said that the number one question is that people that are applying for a job will ask about the company.
About the company? Oh, they ask about the company?
Yeah. Let's say that I'm applying for the job. The number one question that is asked.
Do they ask about like benefits or promotional opportunities or things like that?
What are my days off?
Yeah, that is a terrible question to ask.
It's the number one question that most people ask when applying for a job.
Yeah.
So I totally agree with you.
Yeah. And I used to teach interviewing skills quite a lot. So that would go on my list of terrible questions, because you should be talking about how you're going to help them, not about how working for them is going to help you.
Absolutely.
You ask about that after the job offer.
Well, I totally agree with you. Now you get to bring on our next guest. So you pick number 1 through 3.
Okay, I will pick 2.
Okay, and that is the incredible Karen Mack. And we're talking about desserts, but this whole month is under a certain umbrella.
It is under a certain umbrella, a sweet umbrella, as it were.
And you are the expert in that department.
Well, I don't know if that's true, but I have to say I'm a devotee. Let's put it that way. An enthusiast, a cookie enthusiast. October is National Cookie Month, and this is my 11th year. The month of October, I literally every single day I will bake a different cookie, and then I post a picture to my socials, and they're always delicious cookies and wobbly pictures, but it's super fun and people like it, and through the years, people have sort of really warmed up to just, it's like you said, Richard, it's about having things to celebrate. So I feel like now people have just been lovely about, they share their stories and they comment on the pictures, and maybe this reminds them of something that they had when they were a kid or something that they like. It's really just a lot of fun.
Now, do you have a favorite cookie that you bake?
I am, unlike Charles, I am kind of a chocoholic. I like anything chocolate, butterscotch, those kinds of flavors. But I like shortbread. I like too. I like, this doesn't just happen. I like cookies.
So I'm going to ask you the same question that I just asked Charles, but I'm going to you put your own spin on it. When you've been to an audition or to an interview for a job, whether it be in the business or outside the business, what do you think is the craziest question that you've ever been asked?
You've been asked. Well, hang on, because it's like a petting zoo over here. Back in the day, people used to ask all kinds of inappropriate things, particularly of women, like, "Oh, are you married? How long have you been married? Oh, you must be great with your kid." Like all of those things that you're really not supposed to ask anymore. Um, I don't know. I think I had somebody ask me one. I've always had like a million jobs because it's like that kind of thing where I, I'm I I'm just a little bit of a type A. So if you're in the business, it's like you can't fund anything that you want to do. If you produce things and you did like you have to. I was never good at just working for tips. Like I always needed to have like a regular paycheck. But I do think I had an interview once for maybe an HR position when I first moved to Manhattan, and they asked me if I was a good sleeper. And I thought it was weird. And it was such sort of like kind of a weird, like personal-ish question that
Mhm.
because they asked it in a very matter-of-fact way, I found myself going, you know what? Actually, I don't sleep well. It's funny that and then I like hear this coming out of my mouth and I'm like thinking, oh, I hope I have more copies of my CV in my bag because that's not gonna go over well. But and nobody ever told me why they would ask something. Obviously you can't do that anymore, but I think that's the weirdest.
Now, I want to talk about something that I'm excited about, and that is the fact that those girls are back.
Ah, thanks.
And those girls say, I mean, the four of you are just phenomenal. You're all individually incredible, but as a group, a girl group, do you like that expression, girl
I
group?
do. Oh, I absolutely do. I think it has a connotation to it. It evokes an era, and it's certainly, that's why we're called those girls. We enjoy each other. We have a great time, and we hope to kind of make people feel like that kind of girl group energy. It's very much
And
not just four people doing a show at the same time.
you're all incredible, as I said. You're doing a celebration of Broadway.
We are the
Now,
Broadway.
I love the Broadway, but
Uh-huh.
why the Broadway?
It's well, first of all, like you always ask what we're celebrating today. Today, I celebrate a very special day, which is the birthday of our girl Eve Eaton, our
Happy
talented,
birthday
tall,
to you.
beautiful girl, and it is her birthday. And when the last main stage show that we did, which was right before the pandemic started, we had got very nice people were very kind about it. We got some awards for it. Was Those Girls Sing the Boys, Volume 1. And it was all music made famous by male singer-songwriters and composers and things. And we closed that show with Joanna from Sweeney Todd. And we've been together for 5 or 6 years. We've done lots of shows, but we've never done anything that was really Broadway centered. And we all love theater, and we love theater so much. And we're lucky enough to live in this beautiful city. And so in the course of like building a new show during the lockdown, we just kept coming back to how much we missed that and how much fun it might be to take that canon and mess with it like we do. and so that's why we kind of came up with it. So we hit, I think we've got like 6.5 decades, like 65 years of cross section of music. Everything from Gilbert and Sullivan to Six shows up in this, and funny theater stories, and Q&A, and it's really a great time.
Well, I'm going to let everybody know that if you are going to be in New York, you've got a couple of performances coming up. I'm going to put the poster up here again.
Thanks.
On the 15th.
Yeah. I will be in New York during 2 of those performances. So I'm going to try to
Come on over. We'd love to see you.
Yeah.
We'll put you on the list. Let me know if you want to come.
Well, but you may get a chance, Charles, if you can do this, if you can put in hashtag dessert. You may win 2 comps to the show. Am I correct?
That's right.
And of course, you're still responsible for the food and drink minimum, but you can possibly get 2 comps to the show. And if you are unable to attend the show, another thing that we can plug here is you have a CD coming out.
I do. It's a baby steps.
When is the CD coming out?
We just I talk about things to celebrate. So we just passed a third of the way on our funding, on our crowdfunding, which I'm very excited about because that is a daunting prospect. But we're doing well, and we're at that point where we have more tunes than I think we're going to end up putting out. But in this day and age, that doesn't matter because people don't necessarily buy a whole record all at one time. So we have a lot of great ideas still, and a fantastic band. And Peter Eldridge from the New York Voices is producing it, and he's super fun. And if everything stays on schedule, it will probably drop in the spring next year. We're looking to be in the studio in October, November, and then have it wrapped by the end of the year so that we can put it out, mix it and master it, all that good stuff, get it into the world next year.
So in case you're not able to make it to those girls, the alternate prize, not that it's an alternate, will be your CD.
Oh, for sure. And people can have that. Obviously, that's part of the package. But so whoever wins, I'm happy to have you have the music.
That's great. So you get to pull a random question, 1 through 3.
2.
Okay. And the question is, it's called an impact card.
Ooh.
And it says, make a stand for a cause or an individual who is being wronged. So now is your chance for everybody who's watching for you to make a stand for somebody, an individual or a cause that you feel that needs to be addressed.
Okay. Well, you know what? That's awesome. Because in the month of October, and there are lots of things, there are lots of like odd holidays that are just fun and quirky holidays, but there are also remembrances and important things as well. And October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and I would just shout out to everyone, women, people who love women, people that know women, family members, really be mindful, be kind. You never know what somebody's going through in your life. And if you have not, men as well, if you're behind on your checkups, take care of you. Take the extra effort, follow the guidelines, get tested, get checked with regularity. And if you have someone that is a survivor, and there are ways that you can show up and walk, raise money, raise awareness, be supportive, please consider doing that, not just during Awareness Month, but all year round.
And it's appropriate we have pink today. So
it is. Look at that.
So, but absolutely, and I'm going to second what Karen just said. If you feel a lump or something that it's irregular, don't be embarrassed. Please. I mean, because there's still this stigma with some women and men too, who go, it's just, something unusual. Get it checked out. Early detection is the key. So, and I just lost her. So hopefully she'll be, I hope that she's going to come back any moment. See, it's the aftermath of Mercury retrograde. I blame everything on Mercury retrograde. So yes, and here she is again. I don't know what happened, but we're back.
Look at that.
So you get to pick our next guest, 1 or 2.
1.
Okay, and that's Eddie Varley, who I think you two know each other.
Eddie.
Wow, so nice to
Hi,
be
honey.
welcomed by my dear Karen, who I think is so amazingly talented.
Oh, back at you, honey. This is a great day.
Yes. So I'm going to piggyback off of Karen for a moment, if you don't mind, Karen. And I'm going to ask you, Eddie, you've got the stage right now. If there's a certain cause or a person that you feel that you want to, speak out on behalf of, now's your chance.
Yes. Well, when I was getting ready to come on, it was Roger Moore's birthday. So I wanted to say I love Roger Moore. But piggybacking off that, I think what everyone is going through and thinking of, I think it's very important to just register to vote.
Oh my God.
And it's a very important thing for everybody to do. And, all you have to do is spend a moment to see what's on the headlines and what's going on. And for so many rights and and what Karen had just said about, breast cancer, my mother, and many other family members had breast cancer, and medical security, making sure that you are going to have what you need to combat these illnesses is part of voting. So I would say everybody make sure you're registered, make sure your friends are registered, make sure your communities are taken care of in that. And that's what I think, not just today, but every day. It's so important.
Thank you for saying that. So I am totally right there with you. And here I go. Sorry about that. But going along with previous themes on today's show, the craziest, I'm just going to stick with that word, question that you've ever been asked when applying for a job or auditioning for a show.
Well, I can tell you that many years ago, I was lucky enough to be invited into the New Vic Theatre of London, and they had toured the world and were very popular. And their late great, sort of one of the creators of it and star, Mickey O'Donoghue, was a great English actor, a comedian, and they send it up the great, like, you know, Dracula. They do Dracula, How's Your Blood Count? And they do, you know, Hunchback and all these shows. And I had seen them actually. They were performing in New York, and I went out afterwards with the cast, and I just sat next to Mickey, and, you know, Mickey had his bottle of Chardonnay and this and that, you know, and he's like, but I loved Peter Sellers growing up. I was obsessed. So I knew all the arcane, like, Goon Show and all this stuff. So when he saw that, he, you know, after a few glasses said, Eddie Varley, we go out next time. Come with us. You'll get it. I said, okay, Mickey, sure. You know, everyone, you know, it's like in New York, you say goodbye, you get in your cabs. So a year to the day later, I get a call. Hello, Eddie Varley. Mickey, you're coming out with us, son. Well, I guess I just moved in a new apartment. I don't know that. One question. Do you mind showing your bum? And I said, what? Your butt. You have a problem putting down your pants? He said, no. No, not at all. He said, well, in the show, I think you're the one to show your bum. I went, Mickey, I'm ready. Yes. And a FedEx came 3 days later with my script and my plane ticket. And then 2 days later, I was on a plane to London. And then for a year, I was at the New Vic. And every night, Mickey would go, and I think they need to see your dangly bits. Show more. Did you do it? Yeah. Would you show your bum?
Wow.
And I did all across in.
How appropriate on dessert day that you would tell us that story.
I have my Swiss rolls here. So.
Oh, good for you.
It all connects.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you get to pick your surprise question, number one or number two.
Let's go with number one.
Okay. And the question is, what's the best advice you've ever received other than to show your dangly bits?
Well, I think, you know, all of you guys, and it really is so great. Thank you again for inviting me, Richard, because your show and what you do every celebration was really important. No, never more so than what we all went through. Your show, many days, really got me through it. So I'm grateful for you for that, and music and seeing Charles and Charles, you saying you were so happy to be back on stage. And I think, you know, one of the greatest days I ever had, thanks to Rob Diamond from Broadway World, was having dinner with who was an idol for me, Michael Crawford.
Oh my goodness!
I mean, a fan, and you know, I was always wanting to do comedy or art and whatever, and then I heard the music of the Phantom of the Opera all the way back in 1986, and it, you know, I just was like, now that's something I'd like to, you know, do. And I grew up with Broadway. I grew up with Andrew McArdle, so I'm no, you know, but suddenly there was this big and you know, and for an actor who loved characters and Star Wars, I was like, this is kind of fun. So I had a chance. I actually wrote him when Phantom was in New York. I was still living in this very house back then. And I went up to see him in 1988, see the Phantom. And I wrote, and he said, well, come backstage. And I went backstage, and it was amazing, as you could think. But then many years later, on a crazy journey, I was able to sit with him as a, you know, a person who had been through a lot. And I told him that his advice about never, ever forgetting that every night is the opening night for that audience.
That's right.
And if you don't see the white of your knuckles, and if you don't give 110%, why are you doing it? And that has been something my entire life, is never take for granted. If you're performing or if you're doing anything, do it and care about it. And as bad as the day is, if you're giving service to somebody, man, they might need that more than anybody else. And I certainly, I think it's great advice. And it certainly helped me and all the people, starting from dear Carol Channing and seeing, growing up with Andrea and seeing backstage and that kind of stuff. Always giving that the best you can do, because the audience will connect to it. I studied with Betty Buckley for a bit, and she always said, heart to heart, connect. Everyone's heart's connecting. Think of that. That's another great bit of advice, because we all share the same thing. Why not share where we're from and this and that? But everyone's got a heart. And if one of the great things about live theater and song, Karen, you've given it to me. Your heart, you can share something with just simple song, simple lyric, and that's it. Just do your best.
One of my favorite songs of all time is Anne Hampton Callaway's "At the Same Time."
Mm.
When I hear that song, I think about all of our hearts beating at the same time. And the other day, I was talking to a friend of mine who called me. She was so upset about the passing of Angela Lansbury, which, by the way, everyone, just a little plug here. I'm going to do a celebration of her.
I saw that. So exciting.
Next Friday night, and I've got some great surprises in the wings already for that, including, you mentioned Joanna earlier, Karen. Sarah Rice is going to be on the show, the original Joanna. So, but I said to this friend of mine, she lived a full life. Not that we were saddened by her, not saddened by her passing. We are, but how lucky are all of us that we were alive at the same time that she was. There are babies being born today who don't have that experience in their lifetime, and they will only know her from film and records and television appearances and everything. But we've had the experience. I saw her twice live on stage. I met her once. So we all have that in our lifetime. And I was watching MSNBC that night, and Stephanie Rule at the end of her show said the same exact words. She says, how lucky that we had her in our lifetime. And I went, oh my God, that's the universe just saying that it's all there. So I'm going to bring on our next guest and hope that the gods are on our side, because as Charles and Karen and Eddie all know, we were having some technical issues. So our fingers are crossed. We're sending positive feedback. Reggie, are you there? Reggie?
Oh.
Hello? Reggie? I think we're going to have an issue. Reggie, we're going to somehow figure this out between now and next Friday, and I'll invite you back next Friday because I'd love to have you on the show. Reggie is an incredible entertainer. We appeared together. He appeared in one of Richard Skipper Celebrate shows when I was doing the live shows, and I am so disappointed that he's having an issue here. I'm going to remove this from the screen. And Reggie, if you can still hear me, and if you are able to come back on, we'll try to get you back on. So I want to, so there's one last question, and which was going to go to Reggie. And I'm going to start with you, Charles. And I'm going to ask each of you this question.
Oh, okay.
I don't even know what the question is. And well, here it is. This is going to be fun. Charles, describe worst date ever.
Worst date ever.
Without mentioning names, unless you really want to.
Worst date. I think for me, the worst date ever probably would be someone that I met who was sort of like physically the perfect person for me, but as a human being, we just had nothing in common and nothing to talk about and nowhere to go. And so it was the fight between, well, I'm so I'm so attracted on the one level to this person, but on the other hand, there was nothing there to keep things going beyond, a couple of minutes or just a little fun time. So that was probably the worst date because I so wanted to connect with the person, with them on a human level. And it was just like the physical, was going to work, but nothing else was going to work. And that was a disappointment. So that I would say that probably would go down as, realizing that I have absolutely nothing to talk about with this person. And we just have no common ground really beyond just the physical,
Well, the big question is, did you make it to dessert?
I did get through the evening, yes.
Good. Karen, your worst date ever?
All right. So it was still a date, although it was with somebody that we were very serious. Like we were, talking about getting married, and we've been together, I don't know, at least a year or 2 years. And we went out for New Year's Eve. New Year's Eve is always kind of a crapshoot anyway, because it's, twice the price for the same steak, but whatever. Don't say that about me. So whatever. Anyway, so we went out to what was in Pennsylvania, a very fancy place. We went for dinner and danced, all these things. And then we stayed over the night in the hotel. And so we had New Year's Eve, rang in New Year's Eve, and then we went back to the room. And then after, we were having a conversation, and I guess he'd had just enough to drink. And he looked at me with just the sweetest, most loving look on his face and went, I'm not looking for anybody else, but I'm not really looking for you either.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
oh.
Yeah.
Hey.
And what can I tell you? So I would say,
Wow.
I think that's probably my worst one.
Wow. Eddie?
Well, mine goes all the way back to my junior prom.
Ooh.
And it was, it was I was kind of a nerd, but I went to performing arts high school. So then you were ultimately popular, even if we were all nerds. But I went, I like cajoled this date for her to go with me. And she literally halfway through went off with the limo driver at my,
Oh boy.
So that was the first red flag, for the few, so watch the limo driver. But so that was a bad night. But I never expected it to be, crazy. And it was very early on when like a friend like snuck in beer. So it was also like, a few beers made it all seem okay, I guess, when you're in whatever it was. But yeah, having my prom date leave with the limo driver. That's not a great.
That has to be there.
That's a Shonda.
Wow. Yeah. Well, that's a Shonda. I love that.
I would never do that to Eddie Varley.
Shonda.
I made sure
autobiography.
I made sure for my senior prom that we were handcuffed, whoever I went with. So.
What was your prom theme? Do you remember what your prom theme was?
Always, my senior prom or that junior prom?
Both.
Oh, the senior prom, I remember. Always and forever.
Nice.
Always and forever. Because it was 1984.
Yeah.
And it was a very we'll always be together. And I'm very lucky. I went to the Creative and Performing Arts High School in Philadelphia, and we have been. I just saw my friends not too long ago.
Oh, that's nice.
They've been a great support now that I've been back in Philly for a bit. It's great.
Wow. I want to talk about some of the holidays that we're celebrating today. So Charles, I'll start with you. It's Be Bald and Be Free Day. So do you have a favorite bald performer that you're a big fan of?
Bald performer. Well, I mean, going back to, childhood, I think, Yul Brynner in The King and I was a powerful, sensual, king and was bald and
That's right. But he wasn't really bald. He shaved his head for that role, and that took off, And but think about this: he did The King and I, The Ten Commandments, and Anastasia, all in the same year.
Amazing. Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
And Angela Lansbury tidbit when he. This is a little bit of trivia for all of you, since we're talking about Yul Brynner on Be Bald and Be Proud Day, is that when he was originally cast in The King and I was considered a secondary role, and his name was below the title. It was Gertrude Lawrence in The King and I with Yul Brynner, and that's how it was staged. But by the time he came back with his first revival, and this was, of course, after the movie, he had become this massive superstar. And of course, his name went above the title and everything. I still remember the Broadway theater with his arms out like this, in front of the theater. I used to call that the Arms Up Theater. Because at that theater were Zorba, Evita, and The King and I. And but when he went on vacation for that first time that he took a break, Angela Lansbury came in to play Anna for 3 weeks. And so that's a little bit of trivia today. So Karen, today is also National Chocolate Covered Insect Day.
It is.
Have you ever eaten a chocolate covered insect?
No, nor do I have any interest in it, but I will tell you how I know that, because there is, I don't know if any of you spend a lot of time out on the West Coast, there is this ice cream shop called Salt and Straw. And it's one of those nouveau shishi, fussy. No, you're not going to have vanilla there. You're not going to get like proper flavors. They're all like liver and floor wax and nonsense. And it makes me so cozy, because it's like, why are you ruining ice cream? But they have a flavor that is matcha tea flavor. So the ice cream itself is green, and it has chocolate covered insects in it. And my music partner, Elliot Roth, has been down on a family vacation in Florida for the past week. And I'm like, if you go to the Salt and Straw, you better give a good thrashing to whoever came up with that, because that is terrifying. Because I bet in the ice cream, I just can't imagine how gross that would be, like gooey and just gross.
Everyone, and I think this is a better connection. Let's hope that that we can hear him.
Hello,
Reggie.
Hey, Reggie!
Oh,
okay.
This is the dessert right here. Reggie,
We celebrate you, honey.
yes, you made it on, and we can see
I'm not
you. We can hear
incompetent
you.
after all.
Yes, you figured it out. I'm so glad. So, Reggie, let me start with you. We're going to spend a little time with you.
Okay.
It's National Dessert Day. Your favorite dessert?
I'd like to make a key lime pie, a Florida key lime pie. Yes, it's actually a key lime chiffon pie.
And you make it?
Yes.
Wow. Yes. I have no baking skills at all.
I'm sorry.
What is the best advice that you've ever received in this business?
Well, I don't know, but the funniest thing that ever happened to me at an audition after I finished doing a number, and the casting director says, "Reggie, you still got it." And not really advice, but it was one of those things like, yeah, you just smile and say, "Thank you."
Great. And as I've had, both Eddie and Karen did this. I'm going to ask you to do the same thing, to make a stand for a cause or a person that you feel that you would like to speak out on their behalf today. This is your chance to do so.
Well, I'm going to piggyback on what Eddie said. Eddie talked about voting, people making sure that they get out and vote. I'm a firm believer. I guess it's a big cause of mine. I've been a political junkie since I was, 17 or 18, and I still am. 50 years later. But I like to tell people to make sure that you got all your papers in order. It sounds like something from the old country, but these days you have to have everything in order. So I'm Eddie. Thank you for bringing that up.
Well, my pleasure.
So vitally important, and especially today.
Especially nowadays. So I don't know if you were having technical issues, but
yes, I'm on an iPad now.
But I don't know if you got a chance to hear the question. But the worst date that you ever had?
The worst day or date?
Date.
Date. Oh my.
Well, they would be the same thing. The worst date.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I don't know. I sort of live my life just trying to get through everything and smile, and I don't know, Richard. That's a tough one. That's a tough one.
Okay. Well, if you think of it, you can come back later.
All right.
So I'm gonna go back to you. Well, I'm gonna go to you, Karen, because I already asked you this question, and I'm gonna ask you. Today is National Frump Day.
Oh.
So, and I had,
Well, thank you, Richard, and also with you.
yes, so thank you. So but the reason because I already asked you this.
Oh yeah.
Who you immediately think of, and I'd like to send out. Well, you go first.
Well, and my curiosity, don't you think of her first too when you hear that word?
Yes.
I immediately said Ruth Buzzy's character.
Oh my. Yes, the little old lady.
And she was the talent. That woman's talent, man. She could do everything.
Yes.
And a lovely, lovely person besides. But that, to me, what she did with that character was incredible.
Mm-hmm.
So she's had a series of strokes lately. I don't know if you're all aware of that or not. So everybody, I do believe in the power of prayer. I do. And please send positive thoughts to Ruth Buzzy.
Oh my.
Anyone connected with Ruth or anything, let her know we are sending our love to her. And there's nothing frumpish about that.
For sure.
So Charles, today is, and that's why I have all lowercase letters. I'm the only one who did that. But today is National Lowercase Letter Day. Are you a stickler when it comes to email addresses and things with capitalization or not?
I would say yes. I mean, only because sometimes if it makes a difference between it getting to the person or not, yeah, I would notice that. I try to do it, and yeah, I try to be pretty exact with that kind of thing. Punctuation, and I'm like a spelling nut, and I get people mad because sometimes I might correct somebody's spelling about something and they get mad. Some people appreciate it, but most people get mad. So
you may all agree with me or disagree with me. I think one of the worst things ever created was autocorrect. I'm constantly, when I did the Helen Hayes event, I sent out a press release. One person out of the entire list contacted me and said, "Are you aware that you wrote Helen Hates Day instead of Helen Hayes?" So either no one read it, or it just didn't register with anyone.
Oh my.
I could not believe that I sent out a press release for the event that said Helen Hates Days. So that's that. So Eddie, today is National Vet Nurse Day. And we see Karen's wonderful cat in the background here. Are you a pet person? And if so, do you want to give a shout out to your vet or the nurse today that works?
Yeah. I since I've been back in Philadelphia, I had a rescue cat that I picked up off the streets of Harlem. He came back with me, then for some reason, the cats keep coming in the yard, and there was 2 cats that I was taking care of. They were older. They sadly passed, but I made sure they had a good little life in the last year. And about 3 months ago, she's sleeping over here. We can see her. So she's sleeping on a little thing in there. A little cat came crashing into my backyard during the heat wave we had, and she literally curled up on me. Like she just came up, and I was like, okay, I have another cat.
Good for you.
I brought her in, and she has been, I named her Audrey after Audrey from Little Shop, because I'd done that show so many times. And she basically ran from Skid Row into my
fantastic.
The backyard, and I always think of that line, she's always looking for somewhere that's green, a matchbox of her own.
Right.
And then she has it, and she's taken over the house. She's terrifying her new brother, and she's beautiful. So yeah.
Wow.
And the vet nurse, the services here in Philadelphia, there is a group called PAWS, PAWS, and they do free TNR, and they give discounts for families who might otherwise not be able to take care of pets. They're always helping that. But they were amazing with her. She was vetted, she was spayed, and yeah, so I believe rescuing and care of animals, if we're lucky enough, and I will tell you that the animals have gotten me through, taking a little intermission from New York and coming back and dealing with them. The outside cats and certainly the new arrival have just filled my heart.
Good.
That's wonderful. God bless you for that. And I love I've got 2 rescue cats myself, so they're upstairs in bed together. So Reggie, today is World Egg Day, and you're a good egg because you hung in there and you kept coming back. So, are you an egg man? And if so, what's your favorite way of eating eggs?
I like scrambled eggs, and I'll tell you a little story. I try not to pay attention to prices in the grocery store. I'm holding an iPad, so that's why it keeps moving. I went to my local grocery store the other day, and the eggs were $5.15. I decided that I was going to have a personal protest and not buy eggs, for $5.15. So I thought, I could do without this. But then the next morning I wanted to make waffles. And for waffles, you need eggs. So I had to go back to the store and buy eggs. But I went to another store and they were $4.69. So that's my egg story.
Can I give you some advice?
Yes.
Get a couple of chickens.
Oh. Okay, in Miami right now we have peacocks, and so they do lay eggs. So.
Yes, I know, and they are loud. They are loud.
Yeah.
So, Charles, today is World Standards Day, and it's not standards like in music standards. It's the standards that other people or countries make in terms of things that we live up to. Something that we should all pay attention to, especially as we're voting. So let's do that. So, World Standards Day. Is there a certain culture, or I'm going to say something because I said it the other night and I want to jump on this bandwagon again. Marjorie Taylor Greene. The other night, she was speaking out and she was saying they're coming over to, they're going to bring their cultures to this country. They're going to take over and they're going to take away the way that you do things and everything. And I thought, what a wonderful thing. I'm looking forward to that day because basically what we have right now is not that much to look up to. But I want to ask you, Charles, is there a culture or is there anywhere in the world or another culture that you really admire a lot because of the way that they do things?
Well, I spent a lot of time in my life in France. I went there once for a summer language institute in Dijon. And then I was a teaching assistant in the French lycée for a year. And I lived in Paris. I had an apartment in Paris. And I've always admired the French for the beauty of their language. And it's a very intellectual culture. It's a place where ideas are really valued and talking about ideas, that you can go to a cafe in France and people will sit for hours, discussing ideas, and people will get very heated discussions of people talking about all sides of an issue. And it's just it's a lot of intellectual passion and that's valued in literature and thinking, and all of that is very valued in the French culture. So, and I had a chance to go back to Paris this spring and just loved it again. Went back to my old neighborhood, the Marais, which is where my old apartment was, and visited it. And, relived my years in college when I was teaching in the high school. So France is really, I really fell in love with France at an early age. So that would be really.
And thanks for sharing that. I'm going to bring this screen up here because the word today is dessert. And our dessert, you finish a great meal. And I feel like this has been a great meal, having great conversation with all of you. And the dessert today will be Karen's upcoming show and or CD. So Karen, I've just got some random questions, and going along these same themes that we're talking about right now, what are you most angry about in terms of what's going on in the world right now?
Oh, honey, that's a tough one. I mean, it's just, I just can't get past the amount of misinformation that's out there that people are just invested in. Like, it's just, I don't know whether it's easier. I don't know what fuels it. I honestly can't figure it out. But the fact that that people, listen, this country is founded on people having an opinion and having their passions, and I'm not saying that that's not a good thing, but like the people are so completely
misinformed,
disconnected and misinformed, and just and willing to run with that. Or you can't even have a conversation with them if you have a different opinion, because nothing exists except for this really twisted way that they see the world. And it's not that their opinion is different than mine, it's that it's just grounded in nothing that's true, like nothing that's real. But it's impacting all kinds of real life. That I would say that's my hardest thing, because I don't know how to fight that. I don't know how to.
The way to fight it is to vote.
That's for sure.
Yes,
for sure.
So Eddie, what is the best manifestation of freedom in your life?
Wow, that's a really fantastic question, and I think it ties into everything we just said, and certainly what Karen just said. I think one of the greatest manifestations of it, good, bad, or ugly, is the ability to speak freely in this country. And with it, you see, it is not a simple gift. It is a heavy burden to speak freely with honest purpose, because what we've been seeing is anyone can say anything, like what you brought up earlier, Marjorie Taylor Greene, or I mean, look, anyone who lived in New York for more than 2 hours always knew that Donald Trump was a charlatan, was a con artist, right? But he knew how to, razzle dazzle him. Think about, I mean, nothing more, pressing than Chicago and that song with what we've been going through. The old razzle dazzle, and that is the being able to speak freely has a lot of different roads, and we're learning it. So I think the most important thing is to learn that it is a gift, and in this country, the ability to say that, not get locked up or shot, is starting to erode. So be careful.
Absolutely. Reggie,
Yes.
What do you think is the clearest definition of virtue in today's world?
Oh my, it's so hard to find it today. I do have someone in mind, and people may not agree with me, but in contrast to the Donald, I think that our current president, who does try to do what is right, and he is a pious man, he is a virtuous man, and he's not perfect, and I don't know any human being who is, but it's difficult. It's difficult trying to find that.
Absolutely. Charles, what boundaries do you create around the people in your life when it comes to today's political system?
Well, I think it's, in a way, it's kind of sad because there used to be a day where I had people in my life with a wider political spectrum. My father was Republican. I knew Republicans in my family, of all parts of it, and everyone was able to kind of talk and respect each other. And what I find, which is sad, is that the people that I talk to, just maybe the same way as the right wing, tends to be the people I agree with or share my worldview or my values, and the people who don't, there's such a polarization that those people, it's like I can't talk to them. So I've taken a lot of those people out of my life. a few family members and a few friends that are on the fringe, because we couldn't have dialogue. I mean, if you have difference of opinion and you can have dialogue and exploration, that's one thing. But if it's just screaming at each other, or one person screaming, it doesn't go anywhere, and it's pointless, and it's sad, because there are just there are people that you just don't bring up certain subjects with them, because that it's hopeless to do so. So
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And Karen, I'm going to give you the final question today. And it says, what was the hardest secret that you've ever had to keep?
That really is a challenging question. I think I don't know that there's just one. I think anytime that I am entrusted with information by somebody that has to be a secret, and yet if people knew about it, they would support, they would you know what I mean? Like it's so hard,
Yes,
I think, for people
yeah.
to ask for help. I think it's and I think people are feeling vulnerable is hard for people. And so I think it's been the times like that where somebody who has had just a legitimate need or a terrible pain or feeling so lost and alone and confided it, but would be mortified for anyone to know, like they have to be the one to share it. So then you're sort of walking around knowing that this person needs so much more than you can do. I feel like it would be those kinds of things.
I thought you were going to talk about some special ingredient in one of your cookies.
Oh, no. No.
So everyone, here's our giveaway, and thank you all for being here today. I love how this works, and my hands are here, so you see that I do not pick our winner today. You're all winners for being here. Natasha Lombardi.
Hey, hi, Natasha.
And I'll put you and Natasha in touch with each other. So,
fantastic. Where does Natasha live?
She lives in Portland, Maine.
That's listen, Natasha, I'm going to put together some nice little box of stuff for you. Not just like really some fun things I'm going to get out to you. And thank you for watching today.
And I'll put you in touch with each other. So Natasha, thank you for being here. And I will say this about Natasha. Natasha, and I mean, a lot of you do this, and I really appreciate it. Natasha goes to my website, and she leaves many reviews of the shows. She shows up a lot. All of you show up, and it means the world to me. I know that I can speak for everybody on this show today, and this is the real dessert for all of us. All of us are in a business that time is a commodity. Whether you're going to show up at our shows, whether they be virtual or live, whether or not you're going to pay attention, whether or not you go out and tell other people about what we do. That's the real secret. Advertising is great, but I always say that word of mouth is even better. That's the real dessert for me. So if all of you who saw today's show, after today's show, could go to my Facebook page, not Facebook, but my YouTube channel. Leave a comment there. Share this show with your friends. The Friday wrap-up show is truly one of my favorite days of the week because I bring different people together. I hear different points of view, and I want to do more of these. And I want to do them live again because I think that I want to hear people speak and what people bring to the table. So please, when it comes to social media, we can all do this. You see a comment from somebody, anybody in this business wants to be recognized. So hit the like button, leave a comment, and share it. And if it's not going to uplift everybody involved, and I mean the people who see the post and the people that the post are about, hit the delete button. Hide it so that it no longer exists in your feed. And we can make the world a better place by taking the time to do so. I end every show by telling everyone to go out and do something nice for somebody else without expecting anything in return. Go to your Facebook friends list and reach out to the third name that pops up and reach out with a phone call. Not an email message, not a text message, not a private inbox message, but a phone call, and let that person know what they mean to you. As my dear friend Sean Moniger always says, we're all in this together, but we're not in the same boat. And I always say, if you're going to go out in a boat, make sure you bring a skipper along. So I'm going to leave the screen and I'm going to turn it over to you, Reggie. And you can say anything about anything that we talked about today that you want to build upon, anything that we didn't talk about that you wish we had, or just any final message that you want to leave everyone with. And when you finish, you will pick the next person and so on until the last person is left standing. And don't worry about how to end the show. As soon as you say goodbye, the final credits will roll. I love each and every one of you, and it means a lot that you were here today. And I thank you all for everyone who showed up to watch the show today. Please, please, please spread around positive dessert as much as you like dessert. It's important that we do so. So I'm going to leave the screen, and Reggie, it's yours.
Richard, I want to thank you for this opportunity. Thank you. I'm sorry that we had technical mishaps, but anyway, I wanted to be a part of it, and thank you. I thank you for the variety of topics that you had this afternoon, and I love listening to your guest. I'm going to pass the baton to Eddie.
Thank you so much, Reggie. It's great to meet you. I'm glad you got on board. Charles and Karen, and certainly Richard, thank you for today. And thank you for everything that you all continue to do by celebrating, by Karen, your voice, your singing, your spirit. Charles, just continuing to go back on stage. And I think, I miss New York City. I had to come back and take care of some family issues that we all have to go through. I had to say goodbye to my mom and dad and other parts of my life that, when you're running around, you're being creative, and it's a selfish life sometimes, in your brain. You want to give, but you're also forgetting sometimes those around you. And it's been a gift to come back and take care of that, the ultimate business. But at the same time, knowing you guys are all out there performing and doing things, and Richard's celebrations really got me through it. Certainly, I want to specifically say, the Madeline Kahn, Hello Dolly show, those times when he talked to Leroy Reams, the history of stage, this kind of thing gets me through. And knowing that legacies live on, we all live on. And I think, Karen, you and I shared a very dear friend, David Gerlin.
Oh my God.
And just the other day, I was listening to him sing Vienna, and I think that's a connection that you and I have, how I got to meet you and see you guys. So people might be here with us in the next room, or they might be somewhere else long gone. They are never far away. And that's why I think about all you guys. So thank you for having me, Richard. And I'm going to, Charles, it was great meeting you, but I have to hand it over to Karen because I love her.
Karen, please call me.
I will. I'm going to check in. Yeah. Take it away and keep those photos of the cookies. I need them.
I will. All right. Oh my God. Listen, when Richard says that the end of the week wrap up is something that he looks forward to and he loves, I'm there. This is always so fun when I get the opportunity to do it, and get to talk to nice people and interesting conversations. It's like it's like just sitting around your house. Remember the days when we used to be able to sit around each other's houses? So thank you, Richard, for all that you do. And please, everybody that's out there, if you're watching, it's not just him sitting around asking us questions. There's so much all week, all the time that goes into making this happen and making it continue to happen. So please like and subscribe, check out the YouTube channel, do the things. Richard does so much to support everybody. Please give a little back. It doesn't cost you a dime, most of these things, just a little time. And it gives us all such a great place to hang. I have a couple of things coming up just in case anybody's interested. There's a supper club here called Pangea in New York City. I'm there with my partner, Elliot Roth, on October 20th and November 15th. And those girls and I will be at the opening night of the Cabaret convention at Lincoln Center. It's our Lincoln Center debut on October the 26th. We're super excited about it. It's the music of Yip Harburg. And then we have 2 more shows, October 29th and November 3rd, and a holiday show with my friend Elliot at the Triad Theater. So lots of things. I'm grateful for every single thing, and to have had this lovely afternoon, and especially with you, Charles, who I rarely get to see this close. I get to see you from the other side of the footlights. So thank you for everything that you're doing, and have a great week, everybody.
Okay, so I'm the last one here. So thank you, Richard, for inviting me again to be part of this. I feel really honored and privileged to get that invitation with such incredible, talented people that I know that you know. And it was nice to meet everybody today. I was just thinking of, with the passing of Angela Lansbury, thinking about some of the lessons from her life. And number one, we all know about her phenomenal talent. I remember seeing her as Rose in Gypsy when I was in college and just being so astounded by her talent. And later on as Mrs. Lovett, and then later on in Blithe Spirit and towards the end of her career. But I think it's not just talent. I think why people revered her, it was because of her kindness and her character and just being a solid person with good values and caring for others and being a good person in the world. So I think that's really important. Talent is important, but values and character are also important. And I think that's why it had such an impact on people, because people really loved her talent, but also loved who she was as a human being. So I think that's something for us all to aspire from and learn from, and be grateful that we experienced both the talent and who she was as a human being. So again, thank you, Richard. Thank you for everybody today, and have a great weekend, everybody, and take care and good night.